The morning sun streamed into the kitchen as I sipped my coffee, browsing through some old photo albums. It was surprising how quickly time had passed. As I turned the pages, I remembered the moments we shared as a family. There were photos from vacations, birthdays, school events, and simple family outings. It all felt so recent, yet some of those moments were years ago. Daniel walked into the kitchen, his face fresh from his morning shave. "Morning, Clara. What are you looking at?" "Just some old photos," I replied, showing him a picture of our family from last Christmas. "Remember this?" He chuckled. "Oh, the time when Alex tried to cook the turkey? That was something." Alex, our eldest, had a passion for cooking, but was still learning. That Christmas, he'd tried to surprise us by taking on the turkey dinner, but ended up charring it a bit. We had laughed it off, saying it was the thought that counted. Liam, hearing us from the living room, shouted, "Don't remind me, I was the one who had to order the last-minute pizza." Daniel and I laughed, recalling how our traditional Christmas dinner was replaced with pizza that year. The day moved along just like any other. Daniel left for work, while I prepared the boys' lunches and got them ready for school. Alex and Liam, despite their occasional sibling spats, were thick as thieves. They were both in high school, with Alex being 2 years older than Liam. Their bond was something I cherished. They were each other's confidants, and their laughter often echoed through the house. That evening, as we sat for dinner, I brought up Daniel's upcoming 55th birthday. "We should do something special," I mused. "Like what, Mom?" Liam asked, his face lighting up at the idea. "I was thinking of a quiet family dinner," I began, but Alex interrupted. "Come on, Mom. Dad's turning 55. We should throw him a big party." Daniel, trying to hide his excitement, said, "I'd prefer something quiet, but I won't mind a party." The days leading up to Daniel's party were hectic. There was so much to do. Invitations to send out, food to arrange, decorations to put up. The boys were a tremendous help. They'd come home from school and immediately get to work, helping in any way they could. Alex took charge of the guest list, ensuring that all of Daniel's closest friends were invited. Liam, being the more artistic one, had ideas for decorations that would make the night truly memorable. One afternoon, as I was on my way to pick up the cake, I received a call from Ella. "Hey, Clara," she began, her voice sweet. "I heard about Daniel's party. Can I come?" Ella was a distant relative, a cousin's daughter, I believe. She was much younger, in her early 20s, and had often visited us during her childhood. Of late, however, she had drifted away, caught up in her own life, I guessed. "Of course, Ella," I responded. "It's been ages. We'd love to have you." "Great," she replied. "I'll see you soon." The day of the party arrived. The house was buzzing with energy. Liam and Alex were ensuring everything was perfect. Guests began to arrive, filling our home with laughter and chatter. Strangely, Daniel was late. He was never late, especially not for something this important. As the clock ticked on, I grew anxious. Calls to his phone went unanswered. And then, the front door opened. But instead of a cheerful Daniel ready to be surprised, he walked in with Ella on his arm. The room went silent. The jovial atmosphere vanished in an instant. My heart raced, and my palms felt clammy. Something was off. Daniel cleared his throat. "Everyone, I have something to say," he began, his voice unsteady. "Clara, I want a divorce. Ella is pregnant, and I'm the father." The room was so silent, I could hear the tick of the clock on the wall. My mind raced, trying to process what I'd just heard. How could this be? Everything had been perfect just a few hours ago. Alex stood up, his face red with anger. "Dad, what are you saying? This is a joke, right?" Liam, always the quieter one, just stared at the floor, tears forming in his eyes. Ella looked around the room, her face flushed. "I'm sorry," she whispered, but I wasn't sure if she meant it. Daniel looked at me, waiting for a response. But words failed me. The life I thought I knew was falling apart in front of my eyes. Guests began to murmur among themselves, and slowly, they started to leave. The party was over before it even began. That night, the boys and I sat in the living room, trying to make sense of everything. Alex was fuming. "I can't believe Dad would do this to us," he muttered. Liam, his voice shaky, said, "What are we going to do now, Mom?" I took a deep breath, trying to muster strength. "We'll figure it out, boys. We always do." But deep down, I was as lost and scared as they were. Our life was unraveling, and I didn't know how to stop it. The days after the party were a blur. News of Daniel's revelation spread like wildfire. Friends and family were shocked. Some even called to express their disbelief. The phone rang incessantly, with many offering support, but I often let it go to voicemail. I needed time to think, to process everything. The boys were taking it particularly hard. Alex, especially, was vocal about his feelings. "I can't believe Dad would do this to us," he'd often say, anger evident in his voice. Liam, on the other hand, was more reserved. He spent a lot of time in his room, often lost in thought. One day, as we were having dinner, Alex announced, "I'm going to live with Dad. Liam and I both. It's a bigger house, and besides, boys should be with their father." I looked at him, surprised. "Are you sure about this, Alex? Have you talked to Liam?" Alex glanced at Liam, who nodded. "Yes, we've discussed it. We think it's for the best." Liam added, "We just think, with everything going on, we should be there for him too." I took a deep breath, fighting back tears. If that's what you both want, then okay. The decision was made. The next week, the boys packed their bags and moved in with Daniel and Ella. The house felt empty without them, but I respected their decision. It wasn't long before things started to change, though. One evening, I received a call from Alex. "Mom," he began, his voice strained. "Ella is making our lives miserable. She throws parties all the time, and her friends are always over. They're loud and obnoxious." Liam took over the phone. "Mom, it's not what we thought. Ella doesn't want us there. She's making it very clear." My heart ached hearing their words. "Boys, you can always come back home. This is your home." There was silence on the other end. Then Alex replied, "We'll think about it, Mom." Days turned into weeks, and the tension grew. The boys were unhappy, and even Daniel started to see Ella's true colors. One evening, there was another knock on my door. It was Daniel and Ella. Ella, her face red with anger, started, "Clara, you need to take your sons back. They're ruining our life." Daniel looked embarrassed but said nothing. I replied calmly, "They're your sons too, Daniel. They can decide where they want to live." Ella huffed, "This is ridiculous. We can't have them here." I looked at Daniel, waiting for him to say something, to defend our children, but he remained silent. It was clear where his loyalties lay. The boys eventually returned home, and our small apartment was filled with life again. Although it was a tight space, the warmth of our bond made it comfortable. Ella's attitude had worn them out, and they regretted ever leaving. Their return also brought to light how deeply Ella's influence was entrenched in Daniel's life. One evening, as I was scrolling through my social media, an idea began to form. I knew Ella was always chasing after the flashy lifestyle. Her posts were filled with pictures of expensive items, fancy dinners, and luxurious vacations. I wondered if I could use this to my advantage. "Boys," I called out, gathering them in the living room, "I have an idea." Alex looked curious. "What is it, Mom?" "I think it's time we take matters into our own hands. Ella's been having her fun, but it's time we expose her for who she really is." Liam raised an eyebrow. "How do you plan on doing that?" I explained my plan, detailing each step. "I'm going to create a fake profile of a rich, successful man. If Ella is as shallow as I think she is, she'll take the bait." Alex smirked. "This could actually work, but what's the end goal?" I took a deep breath. "I want to show Daniel her true colors. I want him to see that she's using him, that she's not the angel he thinks she is." Liam looked hesitant. "It's risky, Mom. What if you get caught?" I nodded. "I know, but it's a risk I'm willing to take." With the boys' help, we set up a profile, complete with pictures of a handsome, wealthy-looking man, luxurious vacations, and high-end cars. We named him Max Sterling. Within a day of creating the profile, I sent Ella a friend request, which she quickly accepted. I wasted no time and sent her a message. "Max, Hey, came across your profile. You have a stunning smile. Ella responded almost instantly. Ella, thank you, Max. Your profile looks impressive. Businessman? Max. Yes, I dabble in a bit of everything. Real estate, stocks, you name it. By the way, are you single? Ella replied with a wink emoji. Currently in a situation, but nothing too serious. Why do you ask? Max. Well, I'm looking for someone to accompany me to some events. I could use a beautiful woman by my side. Ella's response was swift and eager. Sounds tempting. Tell me more. And so, our pen pal affair began. Ella opened up about her life, and as I'd predicted, she didn't have many kind words about Daniel. She talked about how she was just in it for the money and the luxurious life. She even mentioned faking her pregnancy to tie him down. But the worst came when she referred to me as her silly aunt and laughed about how easily she had played everyone. I had all the evidence I needed. One evening, the doorbell rang. It was Daniel. He looked worn out. Clara, can we talk? He asked, his voice breaking. I let him in. We sat in silence for a while. Finally, he spoke. I think I made a mistake. Ella is different. I smirked. Oh, you have no idea. We gathered in the living room of the house I once called home. The heavy drapes held back the evening sun, casting the room in a subdued light, matching the somber mood. Daniel looked apprehensive, constantly glancing at the front door. The boys sat rigidly, their faces reflecting a mix of anger and anticipation. Ella entered, her confident demeanor suggesting she was expecting a very different gathering. What's all this? She questioned, her eyes narrowing as she scanned the room, landing on me. Before anyone could reply, Daniel, with a newfound courage, handed her the tablet. You should see this. She frowned, scrolling through the conversation. Her confident stance faltered, replaced with growing panic. She looked up, her gaze darting between Daniel and me, realizing she had been caught. Is this your doing? She spat, directing her anger at me. Ignoring her accusation, I asked calmly, Is it true, Ella? Were you just using Daniel for his money? And the pregnancy? She laughed, though there was no humor in it. Why should it matter? He was an easy target. Alex, unable to contain his anger, shot up. You played with our lives for your own selfish reasons. Ella smirked. Should have kept your noses out of my business then. Liam, ever the mediator, tried reasoning. You could have just been honest from the start. Why play this game? She looked defiant. Because it was easy, and I got what I wanted. He was just a stepping stone. Daniel, his voice shaking, finally spoke. Did you ever care about me? Even a little? She shrugged nonchalantly. You served a purpose. That's all. With those final cold words, she stormed out, leaving a trail of destruction in her wake. There was a heavy silence. Daniel looked utterly broken, his world shattered. I sighed. I'm sorry, Daniel, but you had to know. He nodded, tears streaming down his face. I was so blind. Alex looked at his father, his voice firm. You made your choice, Dad. You decided to trust her over us. Liam added, echoing his brother's sentiments. Actions have consequences. Daniel sat there, crushed by the weight of Ella's betrayal and his own decisions. And while it was painful to watch, neither I nor my children felt any sympathy for him. I found myself back at the house just a few days after the revelation. This time, it was to discuss the terms of our divorce. It felt surreal. The house, which once echoed with our shared dreams, now stood as a testament to our broken trust. The boys were adamant they wanted to be present, to ensure things were fair. They had grown so much during this time, standing firm and supporting me. Daniel looked even more worn out, as if the weight of his mistakes was physically pushing him down. He started, Clara, I can't begin to express how deeply sorry I am. Save it, I cut him off. This isn't about apologies. Let's get to business. Liam took out a piece of paper. We've listed out what we think is a fair division. We don't want more than we deserve, but we certainly won't accept less. Daniel skimmed through it, then looked up, hesitating. Clara, the house. I thought we could sell it and split the money. Alex snorted. Why? So you can give half to Ella? I intervened. No, the house stays with the boys and me. You have other properties. You won't be left homeless. Daniel tried again. It's just that the house holds memories for me too. Memories you were willing to tarnish by bringing Ella into our home, I retorted. He looked down, defeated. Fine, I won't contest it. The conversation moved on to other assets, bank accounts, and investments. It was a grueling process, bringing up more raw emotions. Every time we hit a roadblock, one of the boys would step in, reminding Daniel of his responsibilities. Finally, after what felt like hours, we reached an agreement. The boys and I would retain the family home and most of the joint savings. Daniel would keep his personal assets and the vacation home. As we were about to leave, Daniel spoke. Clara, I know I don't have any right to ask, but can we ever find a way to move past this? Not as a couple, but maybe, someday, as friends? I took a deep breath. Daniel, right now, I don't have an answer. All I know is that trust, once broken, is hard to rebuild. Liam added, and actions have consequences, Dad. You chose to betray us. Alex, ever the protective one, chimed in. You need to live with the choices you made. Daniel nodded, tears glistening in his eyes. I understand. Our move to the apartment was surprisingly smooth. With the boys' help, we set up our new home. While it lacked the sprawling grandeur of the house, it had a warmth that the mansion lost a long time ago. It wasn't long before I started hearing rumors. Word spread fast in our close-knit community. Ella was the talk of the town, with her web of lies coming undone one thread at a time. One afternoon, as I sipped my coffee in a cafe downtown, Mrs. Jenkins, a longtime neighbor, approached. Clara, dear, she began, her voice oozing false concern. Have you heard? That young girl, Ella, apparently, she's been seeing multiple men behind Daniel's back. I took a sip, not letting her words rile me. Not surprised, I replied, matter-of-factly. Mrs. Jenkins leaned in closer, as if sharing a state secret. And it's not just that. They say she never was pregnant to start with. I raised an eyebrow. Well, that's something. But honestly, Mrs. Jenkins, it's no longer my concern. She looked taken aback. Oh, but dear, it's such a scandal. I met her gaze, unwavering. A scandal I have no part in. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have matters to attend to. As the days went by, more revelations surfaced. Ella's escapades became the stuff of legend. The latest was about her being involved in some shady business deals. One evening, as we were having dinner, Alex shared, Dad's business is suffering. People don't want to associate with him anymore because of Ella. Liam added, I heard some partners pulled out of deals. I took a moment, then said, It's unfortunate, but he chose to align with her. This is the outcome of his choices. The doorbell rang, disrupting our conversation. To our surprise, it was Daniel. Clara, he began, I need to talk. I nodded. Fine, but keep it brief. He sighed, looking more disheveled than ever. It's all falling apart. The business, my reputation, everything. Alex scoffed. What did you expect? Daniel looked pained. I know I messed up, but I didn't expect it to go this bad. I crossed my arms. You let a snake into your life, Daniel. It was bound to bite. He looked defeated. I know. I just hoped. Liam interrupted. Hoped what? That your betrayal wouldn't have consequences? Daniel lowered his head. I'm sorry. Alex, never one to mince words, said, Sorry doesn't cut it. You made your bed. I added, Daniel, it's time you face the music. Clean up the mess you made. He nodded, turning to leave. Thank you for hearing me out. The days turned into weeks, and then months. The boys adjusted to their new school and made new friends. We no longer heard or talked about Daniel's misfortunes. Our focus was on the future, not the past. One morning, as I prepared breakfast, Liam walked in with a letter in hand. It's from the court, he announced, his face giving nothing away. I opened it and skimmed through. The final verdict of the property division was in. The judge ruled in our favor. Most of the assets were awarded to us. Alex peeked over my shoulder. Wow, that's a lot more than I expected. I nodded. Yes, but remember, material possessions are fleeting. Our real wealth is here, I said, tapping my heart. With family. Liam smiled. Couldn't agree more, Mom. The doorbell rang, and Alex went to answer. It was Mr. Wilson, our former gardener from the mansion. He looked different, happier. Clara, good to see you. I brought you these. He handed over a basket of fresh flowers. From your favorite part of the old garden. Tears filled my eyes. Thank you, Wilson. This means a lot. He grinned. I heard about the verdict. I'm glad justice prevailed. I nodded. Thank you for sticking by us, even after everything. He waved it off. You were always kind to me. Besides, everyone knew what Ella was about. It was only a matter of time. We chatted a bit more, reminiscing about the old days before he left. The boys and I sat down for breakfast, the aroma of fresh flowers filling the room. Alex broke the silence. Mom, have you thought about what we'll do now? Liam added, with the assets and all? I took a moment. I've been thinking. Perhaps it's time for a fresh start, somewhere new. We can sell the house, the cars, everything. We'll have enough to start over. Alex looked intrigued. Where were you thinking? Somewhere by the coast. Always loved the sound of waves. Liam beamed. I'm in. Alex chuckled. Yeah, me too. We started planning our move. A new place, away from the shadows of our past. It was exhilarating. A few weeks later, we packed our bags and headed to our new home. A quaint house overlooking the sea, where mornings started with sunrises and nights ended with the soothing sounds of waves. One evening, as the sun painted the horizon in hues of gold, Liam joined me. You know, Mom, this is the best decision we ever made. I smiled, looking out at the vast expanse. Yes, sometimes endings are just new beginnings in disguise. Liam wrapped his arm around my shoulders. Here's to our new beginning. I sighed contentedly. Here's to us. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, we looked ahead, our hearts full of hope, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead.